The San Francisco 49ers continue to make moves. Might not be the splashiest of signings, but signings that need to be made. We're going to talk about all that. We got a ton of smoke surrounding the San Francisco 49ers still. So we'll talk about that too. But there are lots of things that we need to get to that happened over the weekend and that have happened today. So let's get right into it right now. You guys already know what to do. Drop an SDS in the comments. Shout out on my sourdough squad. Let's get into it all right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. What is going down? Shout out the Bread Gang. Welcome on in. Shout out the SDS. Shout out the homies. Hopping in. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not think this stream was going to happen today. I have been deathly ill for the past 72 hours. Woke up this morning like there's no way I'm going to be able to do any work. But listen, the show goes on. San Francisco 49ers said, you know what, Brad? We don't care that you're sick. We got moves to make. We got a roster to build, and we are going to do it regardless if you feel well or not. And I said, all right, fine, bet. Let's talk about it. Let's work, baby. So if you see me start coughing up a lung, you see... You might hear it in my voice a little bit. This weekend was rough. Just like it was rough for the Zach Wilson to the 49ers rumors. But I digress. Let's talk about some of the moves that the 49ers have been making. And let's get into it all right now. I think one of my favorite moves happened today, not that long ago. This one was a good one. Shout out the Pastronaut, the San Francisco 49ers. Bring in Josh Dobbs. Let's go. All right, I love this move. I've already made a video on it. I've already tweeted about it. But, of course, I love this move. This is, to me, like the exact type of backup quarterback that you want for Brock Purdy, in my opinion. It came out earlier, like a week or two ago, that the San Francisco 49ers could be exploring trades for Mac Jones, Zach Wilson. And I'm like, I don't want either of those guys, respectfully. Because when I look at those two dudes, I look at two dudes who are young, still have some potential in this league. Yes, they need time to develop, but those dudes are also, they're trying to compete, you know? And again, I've talked about this before. Competition is a part of football. You want to bring competition into every single room. You want these guys to compete. It's exactly what the 49ers did last year by bringing in Sam Darnold. They brought in Sam Darnold to compete. They told him, you have a chance to win this job in preseason. Well, guess what? Brock Purdy said, no, thank you, sir. This is my job. And the reason why I wasn't a big Zach Wilson, Mac Jones guy is because I don't feel like those guys are coming in to necessarily be a part of the room. And that could just be me, misjudging them because I don't know them. I don't know who they are or how they would fit into this room. Just looking from the outside, looking in. I would much prefer 29, 30-year-old veteran who's been around the league, understands the league. Dude got traded twice last year. started for multiple teams last year, won games for multiple teams. I like this guy. And he to me feels like someone who can help Brock continue to improve, continue to get better. To me, and my assumptions of Dobbs is this dude's a student of the game. He understands the game at an extremely high level. And, I remember studying the 49ers defensive tape versus Arizona when he got to start week 4. And I might even have the film breakdown up on YouTube still. But I remember talking about we were going through the tape and we'd be like, look, that should have been a Nick Bosa sack. But because Dobbs was so on point with getting the ball out on time, he probably saved himself from getting sacked by Nick Bosa 5 or 6 times in that game. And that's why from that game, we were talking about, like, man, if you had an edge on the opposite side of Bosa to help flash and help create pressure, to help just force Dobbs to hold the ball for a half a second longer, half a step longer, Nick Bosa's coming out of that game with 3-4 sacks. But it was a combination of Dobbs just understanding where the open guy was and getting it to him as quickly as possible, just like you'd expect a veteran to do. So for Dobbs, and you think about what the 49ers offense requires of the quarterbacks, the biggest thing is finding the open guy, finding the right guy, finding the open guy within the structure of the defense and the structure of the offense in which it's called. And Dobbs is one of those super cerebral type dudes. And they got him for, what was it? It was like $2.25 million, I think it was. So they got him for a deal. And to me, I love his resiliency. To me, he earned a ton of respect. Like, I saw what he did at Tennessee last year when they threw him into the fire. And I was like, okay, there's something here. And then when he started out with Cleveland, they traded him to Arizona, I think the week before the season started. He starts week 1, has Arizona looking way better than anyone anticipated. Then Arizona trades him to Minnesota. And in that first week in Minnesota, he goes out and plays a hell of a game and wins them a quality performance. So the way that I'm like looking at Josh Dobbs at this current state is I feel more confident with Josh Dobbs having to go in and, hold it down and maybe have to win a couple games if, knock on wood, Brock can't go or something like that. Then I would say Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold had the age on his side. He has the potential on his side, the arm talent on his side, and the draft pedigree on his side of being, a top 3 draft pick. Whereas a guy like Dobbs, he's just a backup in this league. But I do think he has the ability to be a baseline starter in this league as well. Doesn't mean he's going to be the best starter. Doesn't mean he's going to be a championship caliber starter. But I think he has what it takes to be a starter. So to get that guy in a backup role, who's used to being a backup, who's used to playing that role, and when you're getting the deal he got 1 year, you're coming in to be the backup. So I think it's a good move. I do. I think it's underrated move. Now the 49ers quarterback room consists of Brock Purdy, Joshua Dobbs, and Brandon Allen. This gives them the flexibility to just take a shot at a undrafted free agent quarterback for camp to be an additional camp arm. And there you go. There are your quarterbacks. That's it. Boom. Thank you. We don't have to spend draft capital on a quarterback now. I think that was one of the things was like, we might spend like a late 6 or 7 on a quarterback, but now I don't think that's a need, especially with a guy like the Pastronaut. So I love his story, love everything about him. Hearing my respect, watching him play the 49ers week 4, and obviously seeing what he did that year and some of the adversities that he was put through. I like the move. I'm for it. I'm for it. I think it's underrated. Like, obviously, we're talking about a backup player, but all things considered, I think it's a quality move. Now, I'm curious to know what you guys think about this move. The San Francisco 49ers opted to not bring back Chase Young. Chase Young signs with the Saints. I'll be getting to Joan and payroll here in a second. We'll be talking about Joan and payroll in a second. Tisk tisk, Joan. Tisk tisk. We'll begin to Joan in a second. But Chase Young doesn't return, official. Signs 1 year, $13 million, fully guaranteed. And but this, again, I see that it's not a surprise, right? We knew that he wasn't going to return when the San Francisco 49ers opted to sign Leonard Floyd and Yetur Gross-Matos. So, honestly, what did the 49ers sign? It was a 2-year, $20 million, from my understanding, for Leonard Floyd. And so, but to be honest, like, the archetype of Leonard Floyd is the archetype of defensive end that I have been hunting for to put on the opposite side of Nick Bosa. Length, speed, pass rush moves. That's what I think would best suit Nick Bosa and the rest of the defensive line, is to be able to have a guy who can scream off the edge, first step, get off, counter inside moves, can bend around the edge, can beat you straight to the corner. And I don't know if Chase Young had that. Chase had kind of like had the mold of a big end, but he didn't uphold what you would want in a big end. Big ends, you typically are looking at edge setters in the run game, can be effective in the pass rushing game, but typically big ends I want to see set the edge. I don't think it was a great fit. It wasn't like he was terrible fit either. And I think there's still room for potential with his career. But obviously the San Francisco 49ers said, we're all right. We'll go elsewhere. And they did. And they did in a hurry. Leonard Floyd talked about it today. He said the 49ers were aggressive right out the gate in pursuing him. So that tells you, too, right then and there, that the 49ers knew heading into free agency that for whatever reason, Chase Young wasn't going to be a part of those plans. So, hey, the 49ers go in a different direction. He signs with the Saints, and they are looking at a comp pick for him. Now, I don't know exactly what that comp pick is going to look like, but when you sign a 1 year, $13 million deal, it's likely going to get a lot of snaps based on how comp picks are calculated. I would imagine it could be in the realm of 4th or 5th. We'll see. I don't know enough about the comp pick formula to be any sort of authority on it, outside of just seeing that the San Francisco 49ers are wizards when it comes to taking advantage of the comp pick formula. So we'll see what that ultimately looks like when it's all said and done. But the 49ers traded a 3rd-round pick that's now in Washington, and they will hopefully get a comp pick next year. So We shall see what that looks like next year. Another thing that's impacted the 49ers next year was Joan and payroll. Joan and payroll made a mistake and cost the 49ers a draft pick in 2025. So Matt Mayoko is the first to report this. He says the NFL announces that the 49ers will forfeit their original fifth round selection in 2025 draft and will have their 2024 round selection 131 moved to the end of the fourth round behind the compensatory picks 135. According to the NFL, a review found payroll accounting errors at the close of the 2022 season, which resulted in a misreporting of the club's cumulative player compensation. The NFL says San Francisco would have remained under the cap at all times, regardless of the error, and there was no ill intent. Well, I guess that's a good thing, right? I think that's a good thing that there was no ill intent that was able to be discovered. It sounds like this was straight up a clerical error. And hey, it happens. Uh, as someone who makes typos and spelling errors all the time, I can sympathize with this. It's kind of what it sounds like. I don't know. I don't know the details, but it sounds like it was just a clerical error in some accounting. The 49ers gave a statement that said, "We take responsibility and accept the imposed discipline from the NFL due to a clerical payroll error. At no time did we mislead or otherwise deceive the league or gain a competitive advantage in connection with the payroll mistake." So I've never seen this before. This is a first for me. I've never seen a team penalize draft picks uh, for a clerical payroll error that didn't really affect anything, as the NFL states, because the 49ers still remained cap compliant and they discerned there was no ill intent. So, however, quite a steep punishment, no? Fifth round draft pick? That's a future George Kittle right there. Future Talanoa Hufanga. Fifth round. 49ers make their money in the fifth round. So interesting. Definitely an interesting situation with how that whole played out. So hey, 49ers got docked draft picks. All right. It is what it is. It is what it is. The 49ers made a couple roster moves. They have signed an offensive lineman. Are you guys excited? The 49ers finally signed some free agent offensive linemen. They signed Brandon Parker to a 1-year deal, former third-round draft pick. Had a good amount of starts for the Raiders, but definitely I poked around. I haven't watched his tape yet, but definitely not spoken about highly by former Raider people. So I saw some stat where he had 12 starts and gave up 8 sacks. I think 8 sacks given up would have been like tied for like 5th or 6th in most sacks given up in the NFL this year. So I don't think that Brandon Parker is any more than a potential swing tackle. More likely than not, can't body, who could potentially be a veteran presence on the practice squad. Dude's huge, 6'8", 320. Like I said, I haven't watched him. Um, so I can't give you a deep analysis in that regard. But hey, 49ers got some offensive linemen. There you go. They also made another move yesterday. They signed Ezekiel Turner to a 1-year deal. A lot of special teams moves. And I actually like the thought process here. I think the 49ers have definitely I think there's like a duality of, do you want to get depth that could potentially develop into key positional players, or do you need depth who can actually provide instant impact as special teams? I think they've slowly been moving away from, some of those developmental guys on the back end of the roster to taking those spots and giving those to special team dudes like who have shown that they can play on special teams. Because I just think the 49ers, teams unit has struggled for a long time. And I think when I see moves like this, and you see the extension of George Odom, and you see some of the other moves that they've made, just feels like they're putting more emphasis on those depth pieces being guys who have contributed on special teams before. So, like when you see the Lucas signing, he's proven to be a special teams guy. I don't think he's a guy that you're necessarily looking to come in and be a starter, but he has special teams experience. A lot of these guys have special teams experience. So I think that's an emphasis, is they want to bring in guys who can actually, they feel confident in putting out there on special teams. So it'll be interesting to see what this guy does for the 49ers, all that good stuff. I saw this floating around. I'm sure you guys did as well. I still think the 49ers got a couple moves under their belt. And for me, it's at cornerback and at safety. I think everything else is pretty much sewed up at this point, outside of maybe a potential couple other depth spots. But I think a starting cornerback, and as we've heard from Mike Silver, the 49ers are apparently looking for a potential starting safety. But you had Charvarius Ward talk about how him and Tre'Davious White have the same agent. And he said, let me know if y'all want him. So maybe that could be an option for the 49ers. I think one of the tough things with Tre'Davious is he's coming off the Achilles injury. So it remains to be seen where he currently is from a physical standpoint. But I think we know when White is healthy and he's on the field, he's a baller for sure. So we just know he's coming off the Achilles injury. So, I mean, the 49ers got Richard Sherman off the Achilles injury, and that turned out to be all right. So it'll be interesting. I think another name to keep an eye out for, and I don't think it would happen anytime soon. It would probably, if it were to happen, it would probably happen after the draft. But Xavier Howard, if you want to get a veteran cornerback who could come in and start on the outside, maybe just for a year, Xavier Howard would be an interesting name that you could put on the outside and have Diamador Lenore play in the nickel and Charvarius Ward on the opposite side. And then you have those three. those 3 dudes balling out there. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. The comment that someone made, I think on my last live, they were like, they quoted "That'll be interesting," and they said, "Brad, put that on a shirt." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, based." I say that a lot. um, let's see what other stuff happened today. What other stuff happened today? They officially announced Leonard Floyd, so that's good. I know people were starting to get a little antsy about him not being officially announced just due to the whole Eric Kendrick situation, which I understand. But he's officially signed. A lot of the guys got officially signed and locked up. So 49ers looking good. Looking good. So one of the things that I think is popping up, and again, people aren't very open to discussing it, but I'll take my shot at it. I know people have been very vocal about this topic, and understandably so. It is a very, very delicate subject because, as I've stated 4 billion times, not one 49er fan wants to actively go out and trade Brandon Aiyuk, including myself. And on the other hand, it is business season. This is the time of the year where loyalty, where the way the fans think about it, is just business. Agents are trying to get their guys the best deals. The teams are trying to cut the best deals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So Mia O'Brien has continued to just make noise about the whole Jaguars Brandon Aiyuk situation. And again, she came out today. This is now her third hit on this Brandon Aiyuk to the Jag situation. First, it was mutual interest between Jags and BA's team. Then it was, oh, Trent Baalke is absolutely trying to trade for a wide receiver. And, you know, sources inside the building have told her that the 49 or the Jags are very interested in Brandon Aiyuk. And basically, since they lost out on Calvin Ridley, they're trying to replace him with a guy like Aiyuk and all that stuff, right? Well, then she comes out today and says, I don't want to put words into her mouth. So let me just say what she said. I'll even pull it up so you can see it yourself. And again, we can talk about this. We can talk about it. No one's going to get hurt by this. We can talk about it. Doesn't mean anyone's getting traded. Let's just talk about it. Mia says, as I noted on XL Primetime, 49ers reportedly would have wanted number 17 overall and Zay Jones. Then Jaguars would have to pay Aiyuk, so fizzling out. The interesting part is at the bottom that says, hopefully this tweet will stop all the random Niners fans. Hopefully, this tweet will stop all the random Niner fans who Facebook friend requested and IGDM'd me in the past 4 days. Man, this is so the 49ers fan base, man. We are one of the quickest fan bases to hop into someone's DMs when we're not happy about something. So this is objectively hilarious to me. But again, one of the things and talking points about this is this: don't listen to the fake reports. And so the point is, well, why would this be a fake report? Why would a credentialed beat reporter for the Jags, who does the pregame show on their flagship, be making things up at this rate now for the third time? For what? Twitter clout? So the point is not to, when we talk about these things, is to talk about them, is to have a discussion, is to have a conversation. Doesn't mean that any of this stuff is going to happen. Doesn't mean that it's true. Like, it could be completely false. It could be, but it could also be true. Both things can be true at the same time. So to kind of like talk about this, don't listen to the fake reports. I texted someone who's been a credentialed media member in the San Francisco Bay Area for a long time and understands this business inside and out. And basically what he said to me was, in doing very similar research, he's like, I don't know anything about her, but reporters generally aren't making things up like this. She's not even speculating because it's very specific. Someone is feeding her that. It's definitely legit, even if it doesn't materialize. So again, if this was a blogger, if this was a content creator, this was Joe Schmo on Twitter, we would take a completely different tone with it. But you also have to understand, just because you don't like it doesn't necessarily mean that you can just disregard it. So a part of why we keep bringing it up is because it keeps getting brought up, and it's being brought up by someone who is tied to that organization. Now, does it mean it's going to happen? No. But, and yes, just because it's out there doesn't mean it's true, but it doesn't mean it's untrue either. That's the part that I think people have a really hard time understanding and having this conversation is because they don't like the content of what is being said. It's disregarded as false rather than having an open mind and just viewing it from a different perspective. This person has nothing to do with the 49ers. This person has nothing to do with Brandon Aiyuk. It is completely outside of our world. It is completely outside of our ecosystem. So it's a different perspective. Does it mean it's true? No. Does it mean it's not true? Not necessarily. So the point is that we can talk about it. We don't have to lose our minds about it, because as it's being discussed, she's literally saying it's fizzling out, which means it sounds like it's not going very far. which is exactly what we want to hear. Because just like this situation, the 49ers were presented an offer for Deebo Samuel, and it wasn't enough. And I guarantee you there was a offer that we can't refuse by the 49ers presented back to said team. But also at the same token, that team can say no to that. So if you're looking at it from that same perspective, I don't think the 49ers want to trade Brandon Aiyuk. So if they ask for the moon for BA, they're effectively killing that trade. Because if the Jags aren't willing to part with number 17 and Zay Jones, then they're going to pivot. They're going to say, oh, what's T. Higgins up to? They're going to go in a different direction. So I think people just need to understand that in this part of the year, it's very fluid. It's very fluid, and a lot of things go down behind closed doors that you don't know. I know for a fact one of your favorite players on this team got shopped. And you would lose your mind if you knew. And the thing is, it's like, because you don't want to believe it, you automatically say, well, it's not true. It's not true. It's false. Clout. It's like, not necessarily. Does it mean it's going to happen? No. But did you think DeForest Buckner was going to get traded? The point is, guys, is that we should be able to have a conversation about this. It doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean it's accurate, doesn't mean anything other than the fact that, hey, this is out there. Let's talk about it. And what I'm seeing right now is people just have a hard time talking about it. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to work through the perceptions of these situations and talk about the viability of it. Again, look at it from a different perspective, try to understand, does this even make sense? So far, nothing sounds outlandish. Nothing sounds crazy. The 49ers asking for 17 and Zay Jones, that seems like a viable request from the 49ers. I personally would want more, but just like we saw with Brian Burns got traded for a second and a fifth. A second and a fifth. A year prior to that, the entire internet was yelling at me because Brian Burns wasn't going to get traded. When I said, I think there's a good chance Brian Burns is going to get traded. No. Impossible. Never going to happen. Nope, not going to do it. So I understand that I view this situation much differently than most. You don't have to agree with me at all. You don't. But we should be able to talk about it. We should be able to have an open discussion about it. What's wrong with that? Why can't we do that? My hope is at the end of the day that every team that comes calling on BA, the 49ers ask for the moon. And my hope, and again, this is selfishly as a 49er fan, because I personally love BA on this team. I love BA with Brock. I love BA with Deebo. I want BA to be here. Selfishly. Because that's my guy. I don't want him to go anywhere. I don't want to be talking about the potential of Brandon Aiyuk to be traded. Not one person wants to be talking about this, but it's our reality, people. And it's okay. We'll be fine. Guess what? Deebo Samuel flat out requested a trade. And guess where that news broke? On this channel, live. Because one of our followers dropped into the chat and said, "Did you see?" I'm not even gonna go. I don't even want to go to. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But the point being is, this is business time, ladies and gentlemen. This is another battle arena that we're dealing with. It's not the battle arena on the white lines. It's not what we look at football through. This is a different time of the year. And if you want to be able to kind of, I would say, be able to work through it a little bit less emotionally, is understand anything can happen with your favorite player. Anything. And just understand that at the end of the day, it's a business decision. There are business motives behind it. They traded away the number one locker room guy to the Colts in DeForest Buckner. Joe Staley had passed the reins of being the leader in the locker room to DeForest. That guy got traded. This isn't to pour salt in the wound. It's just to wrap your mind around the reality of football. And sometimes the reality of pro sports isn't what we make it to be sometimes, especially at this time of the year. I think we as fans romanticize football a lot. So as a result of that, we don't want to talk about our favorite players getting traded. We don't want to talk about our favorite players moving on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it is what it is. It is what it is. I, again, don't think he'll get traded because I don't think the 49ers want to trade BA. I think if you had to tinfoil hat this, I don't think the 49ers want to move BA. And I think BA wants to be compensated. And I think each side is doing what each side needs to do. And I'm fine with that. And when we see it, we're like shook by it. Like, what? Like, they're talking to another team. Yeah, it's a part of it. It's a part of it. So I would say, to kind of put a bow on this whole BA smoke conversation, is just because there's smoke doesn't mean it's untrue, but it doesn't mean that it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to get traded either. So I think we just have to be calm, relax, chill out. This is the offseason. We got a high-profile player who's trying to get paid. We just had Nick Bosa, who I've never seen the San Francisco 49ers talk about openly re-signing a player before, like Nick Bosa. And do you remember how crazy the Nick Bosa holdout was? What happened before that? It was, I feel like every year we've had something. So I feel like we just need to kind of wrap our heads around it and be like, oh, it's almost like this is the reality of the offseason. It's almost like giving out $100 million contracts isn't just super easy. And there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, including gauging interest in other teams, seeing if you can get more money elsewhere, seeing if you can get more value elsewhere. Just hopefully at the end of the day, come back together, get a deal done, and move on with our lives. So this isn't going to be the last smoke about the BA thing, in my opinion. I think for us, we got to make it through the draft. If we can make it through the draft with BA on the roster, lock him in. Lock him in. BA's here to stay, but that is kind of our imaginary trade deadline. And again, that's not to say the 49ers are trying to trade BA. That's not to say BA is firmly requested a trade or any of that. It's just we understand this business. We understand what this time is. So our deadline that we know that exists is going to be the draft. So if we can all wrap our heads around that anything can happen from here until the draft, but once the draft clears and teams are basically set with their rosters, I don't believe we would see a player of BA's magnitude traded. And that would then initiate and engage getting him signed to a long-term deal before training camp, like we've seen with the San Francisco 49ers. And that was the same case with Deebo Samuel. They had multiple offers on the table for Deebo. They didn't trade him by the draft. They kept him, paid him, and guess what? Deebo's still here. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And Deebo requested a trade publicly. And Deebo got paid, and Deebo is here. So just deep breaths, people. Deep breaths. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. But if we ever get that notification come across, that's gonna be a wild one. Justin says, "Have you seen the Louisville wide receiver Jamari Thrash? I see a little Deebo and Aiyuk in his game. I've heard a little bit about him. I'm so behind on all the draft prep stuff. I've definitely heard about him. It sounds like there's a lot of really good wide receivers in this class. So the 49ers are going to have some options here. Options here at wide receiver, options at offensive line, all that different type of stuff. So I have not watched him yet, but I'll put him on the list because you've been on point with especially wide receivers. I don't think BA's gone. I don't think BA's gone. I don't think he's gone at all. He's still here. He's still here, just like Deebo is. I'm going to try. So the way that I'm looking at this personally is I got faith that the 49ers are going to try to keep him here. I believe that to be true. I believe the 49ers want him to be here. So if you see reports like that one that we saw, to me, that almost feels like they know it's a non-starter. You know what I mean? Like 17 plus Zay Jones. It's like they know that. And it's also to an ability for them to gauge interest as well in stuff like this. So if you can't move Brandon Aiyuk for pick 17 and Zay Jones, and you got Trent Baalke scoffing at that, like, nah. B ain't going nowhere, man. Like, if If 17 overall and Zay Jones isn't going to cut it, I'm not trading BA for anything less. Like BA, there's no guarantee that anyone you pick in the teens is going to just be able to replace BA if you go wide receiver. And beyond that, it's like I like Zay Jones personally. Zay is a former draft crush of mine. He's bounced all over the league. He's been, dealing with some injuries. He's had some successful seasons, but he's been a serviceable wide receiver. But the point is if we're taking a global perspective of this, if pick 17 isn't enough for the Jags, well, I'm not trying to go into the early 20s, mid 20s for a first. That doesn't feel like a good move. So I've already said it before, like I don't love first round pick for BA. And I still don't like it. Like if they traded BA for 17 overall and Zay Jones, I would still be upset by that haul. That would make me upset because I don't feel like that's a good enough return on BA the player. However, I understand you have to pay BA, which is why the price is so low. I get that part of it. But that's why for me, it's like, again, selfishly a 49er fan. I wouldn't trade BA for 17 and Zay. I would rather have a player. Like again, that's why I talked about it. I was like, well, if they would trade Josh Allen, like a legit player who also needs an extension, that makes more sense to me than just a first round pick, because I just don't feel confident that a rookie is going to present the same impact as BA will for this team. So I would say BA is staying until otherwise notified. That's really how I would look at it. In my opinion, BA is here to stay unless otherwise notified. When am I going to do the tinfoil mock drafts? Well, if you guys haven't noticed, I'm on my tinfoil grind with all this smoke. People get mad at the tinfoil, but the tinfoil protects me. Tinfoil protects me way more often than not. And again, it's going to be against the grain. I know a lot of my takes and a lot of my opinions go against the grain. But what's the Aponte saying? Trying to get it right, then be right. I'm just trying to get it right. I'm not trying to dig my heels into the ground and be like, I said this, so this is what it is. That's never how I am going to be. I am always going to take in new information. I'm always going to evolve my takes and my opinions. I'm always going to look at things from multiple perspectives. And like this situation, you have to look at it from player perspective, agent perspective, fan perspective, 49ers front office perspective. You have to look at it from Jaguars front office perspective. And now you have to look at it from a Jags beat reporter perspective. There are so many perspectives that you have to be able to try to, at least for me, this is just how my brain works. I put myself into all those people's shoes and then I process the information that way. And that's how I always try to do it. So we'll see what comes of that. But as it stands right now, I don't think he's going anywhere. But again, you never say never. Never say never in the NFL. The worst thing you can do in this league is say something is never going to happen. You just can't do that. You just can't do that. So anyways, but I do got to do some mocks. I do got to do some mocks. And also I gotta start grinding some college tape for sure. Michael Hyde with the Seahawks profile picture says, say the Niners need to move off of a few stars to save money for Purdy mega deal. With Bosa, Debo, Kittle, BA, Greenlaw, CMC under contract, rank each name in order of who you would move off of. Oh, this feels like a trap. This feels like a trap question. Well, considering the amount of money Bosa just got paid, you'd put him at the very top of guys that you're not going to move off of. You would have to put BA at the bottom of the list right now because he's not paid. He's not under contract. So he would be a free agent next year. So you'd have to put him on the bottom, in my opinion. Not saying that I would want to move off him. I'm saying from a contractual standpoint, because that's the part. This to me is a money conversation. This isn't a conversation about talent or what they do on the field. This is about dollars and cents. So you can't move off Bosa because of how much you paid him. Kittle you restructured, so I don't think that works. So you put Kittle up there with probably, yeah, I don't know. Greenlaw is potentially a name just because of his contract coming up. CMC's due an extension here pretty soon. I'm curious to see when those conversations get started. Is it are we way too soon to start the pay CMC hashtag? Is that too soon? Too soon? I only think CMC's got like 2 more years on his deal. You know these players don't like to play on the final years of their deal. You guys think about that? Some of you right now are like, "No, I haven't thought about that." He said too soon. I'm just having fun at this point. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a great ranking just because if BA gets paid this offseason, he's up there with Bosa. Kittle just got restructured. Debo could be at the bottom based on moving off his money. CMC is a question mark because I think he gets potentially he gets an extension next year. So it would probably be Greenlaw at the bottom coming off the injury because that's just the unfortunate situation of it. Uh, but yeah, I mean, all the players that you listed are predominantly some of our higher paid. Uh, yeah, yes, that's what that question did to me. That's what that question did to me. We'll see. I'm sick. I got a tummy full of white dog crap. Then you lay this crap on me. Come on, man. No, but to be honest though, I can't wait until we don't like. We've had so many off seasons of just like rampant speculation. Um, I would love, I would love for one off season for us to just be able to chill. I don't think that will ever happen though, to be honest. I think I think the 49ers are a non-stop content machine, whether it's rumors, whether it's moves, whether it's something. You notice how the 49ers are always somehow one of the main talking points in the NFL? It's probably why they can sustain so many people covering the team. But hey, it is what it is. That's the motto. That's the motto that I'm taking. Um, I don't like talking about trade speculation, but it's unfortunately a function of the job. And that's one of the things that's like you don't always like everything you do at your job, right? Like, hey, there are some things that I do as a 49ers content creator that I actually don't like, but it's a function of the job and it has to be done. So I get it. No one wants to put that in their mind of some of the potential outcomes, but it is what it is, man. I'd rather be able to talk about it and process it before anything happened than just to pretend like, oh, everything's fine. And then boom, get blindsided by a notification. That's my preference. Doesn't have to be you, but it's mine. I'd much rather prefer to kind of process certain potentials than getting punched in the face when I wasn't expecting it. I'd prefer to see the punch coming straight on than to get, you know what I mean? Oh, good stuff. Any other questions before we get out of here for today? Again, did not think I was going to be able to get on live today, but hey, we did it. Um, I honestly did not think. Uh, honestly did not think I'd be out of bed today. So this is good. This is a good development for me. Um, I don't. So Mark says if the Niners take a wide receiver in the first round, what does it mean for Debo and/or BA? Which one gets traded? Honestly, I don't. I don't see if BA gets paid and they take a wide receiver in the first. I mean, at that point, I would have to say it would be closer to Debo, but I don't see them taking a wide receiver in the first. If BA's under contract and Debo's under contract, I don't see them taking a wide receiver in the first. That just feels like I'd have a hard time seeing that. So the only way to me that they're taking a wide receiver in the first is if they move off one of their wide receivers in the draft. And so then at that point, it would probably be BA in that hypothetical scenario. Boy, that would be so challenging. It would be so challenging for a rookie wide receiver to come in and fill in the shoes of Brandon Aiyuk. Michael is thinking the same thing as me. A wide receiver in the first year is no guarantee that the player would be ready in Kyle's system. It's almost a guarantee that they won't be ready as a rookie, I would say. I would say it's more closer to a guarantee that they wouldn't be ready. So, again, that's why I don't like the idea of it. That's why I hate the whole idea of trading Brandon Aiyuk, because Brandon Aiyuk for the San Francisco 49ers gives them the best chance to win. The best chance for Brock Purdy to have success is with Brandon Aiyuk. The best chance for the San Francisco 49ers to beat opposing teams is with Brandon Aiyuk on the roster. Yeah, I don't want to trade that dude. That would be a sad day. That would be a sad day. Very sad day. So I don't want to see that day come. And again, when I share this information with you, it's to simply keep you informed on what is out there around the San Francisco 49ers, like I do every single day. The only difference is that it's now the offseason and the content is surrounding Brandon Aiyuk. Nothing else is different. That is it. So hopefully, again, one of the positive things about what the beat reporter had to say is that it was fizzling out. So that's good. So hopefully that's a sign of things to come. But I appreciate everyone as always for tapping in with the channel, vibing with me as I somehow tried to survive through this thing. Smash that like button on YouTube. If you guys are watching on Twitter, feel free to come through over to YouTube, hit that sub button, like the video. We do more than just lives on YouTube. We do a ton of videos. So come on through. And already shout out the squad who's already rocking with the channel. Appreciate all you guys as always for the continued support. You guys are the best. I don't think this stream was as quite iconic as Jordan's flu game, but it's in consideration. Not really. Not even close. But appreciate you guys. Grab your cookies on the way out. Y'all the best. We're going to have more content than just rumors, I promise you. I promise you. Draft content is absolutely loading. Let's go. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it.